How much risk are you willing to take with your Medigap plan? Hi, I'm Jim and I was retired. Last week, I looked at the reasons why my wife will join me by using a Plan N Medigap plan. But one viewer took me to task and said we should really have looked at the High-Deductible Plan G instead. So, as a follow-up to last week's, I'm going to take a look at Plan G, High-Deductible Plan G, and Plan N. I ran the numbers for 2026, and the results may surprise you. Now, this is a hypothetical case study. I'm going to show you my spreadsheet and the number crunching that I did. My own experience is based on my own health, a few office visits a year, no emergency room visits for me in the last 4 years. Some things you really can't predict, like your medical experience. But you also couldn't predict inflation. Have you seen what happened to inflation since 2021? And the premium rate hikes that you're likely to experience, which are based on loss experiences in the marketplaces. All of those affect the actual results in real life. The other great unknown is the limited experience with high deductible plans. Very few people choose this option, whereas I can find numbers on Medigap insureds for Plan G versus Plan N. Now, this chart shows you the Medigap policies, and I covered this before. The grayed out ones are plans that are no longer available to those that are now joining Medicare after age 65. But plans F and plans G, and plans G is one of the highlighted ones, have those little asterisks, and they indicate that for a high deductible, and that's down here for 2026, that's going to be $29.50. Your benefits would only start to pay out from the Medigap insurer once you've hit that higher deductible. And in 2026, that'll be $29.50 out of your pocket before anything out of the Medigap insurer's pocket. Now, Plan G is the most comprehensive, most popular, and most expensive plan in most markets. And here in New Jersey, as I discussed, it starts at $131 a month for a 65-year-old female with a household discount, and that's a non-smoker. If you go to the high deductible Plan G, the premiums would start at $45 a month for a 65-year-old female non-smoker. And that sounds like a bargain, but don't forget the deductible. By the way, this chart from medigap.gov still shows the 2025 level here, even when you're looking at 2026 plans. It's $28.75 this year in 2025, but it'll jump to $29.50 in 2026. So if you select the high deductible Plan G, you need to keep track of that deductible level, which is based on the annual reading of Consumer Price Index for urban workers in August. That's when the reading is taken, and then they announce the new deductible sometime in November. In 2026, that number jumped up 2.8%. Now, inflation is really running around 3%, so you might have gotten a bonus this year, but take a look back at the increases in 2021, a 5.1% increase, followed by an 8.4% increase in 2026. And this is one of the hidden risks of a high deductible plan. You need to keep track of the inflation adjusted high deductible. No matter what Medigap plan you choose, you also need to keep in mind that your Part B premium and Part B deductible go up each year as well. And the 2026 figures underlined here are the actual results through above that line with the actuarial estimates for the future years. And so those will come out of your pocket no matter which choice you select. I went out to this report from the AHIP Center for Policy Research, and it updates numbers that I used a few years ago when I last looked at Medigap choices. And in the 2023 enrollments, that's the latest year available, you can see the trends for enrollment. So I updated an older chart that I had with 2 more years worth of data, and it still shows the same trends. F in red going from about half in 2018 to about 36% in 2023. And you can see G in light blue has gone from about 17% to 39%, and the steady 10% of enrollees in Plan N in the dark blue. But high deductible F and G are not in this data. And here's a pie chart of that same data, which shows that in 2023, Plan F was about 36%. Plan G was about 39%, and Plan N was about 10%. No hint of what the actual numbers for high deductible G were. So I asked Grok to give me some of the best industry guesses of what this pie chart would look like if I included a breakout for high deductible G. And Grok said that the industry experts from AHIP and Kaiser Family Foundation and Boomer Benefits and actuarial firms like Mark Ferrara Associates have stressed there's only about 2 to 4% of Plan G enrollees have selected the high deductible option. It also noted that high deductible Plan F is less talked about because it's a legacy choice, only available to those that were eligible for Medicare before January 1, 2020, when that ban on having a Part B deductible coverage in the plan, and that's why C and F went away. Congress wanted us all to have stake in the game every year. Since that law in 2020, high deductible G is a option for a very small percent of the people. And that's because most people are put off by that high deductible each year with its inflation risk. But this 2 to 3% of the pie represents a marketing risk. That means there's less experience for consumers and for insurers. And with that slim slice, you may get some weird results in future years. Now, I'll show you here an updated spreadsheet that I created when I first did my shopping in 2021, and I updated it with our real data from the last 4 years, and I've also included the high deductible Plan G in this hypothetical retirees case study. All right, so here is the spreadsheet. Now, I've put in the actuals here for the Part B premium. I put in the estimates that I used last time for G here all the way through. The estimates that I had at the beginning, now again, this is for males 65, non-smokers. So they're a little higher than the female rates. And then the N rate here. Now, this was my original rate that I had gotten. This was me, the older spouse in my last study. And then the Part B premiums, the annual out here, all for those options. And then this was the deductible back in 2021 when it goes up, and it goes up all the way through. This is what the deductible will be next year. And there's the deductible, Part B deductible that we all now have to pay. And then I had originally looked at my out-of-pocket averages, and I was running about 800 back when I initially did this study. And when I first ruled out a high deductible plan, I said, well, let's throw in a couple years, maybe one in the near term and a couple towards the end of the age 80 test run, where your deductible out-of-pocket would, instead of inflating the average out-of-pocket, would go ahead and become, as you can see, the high deductible limit that year. Now, again, your medical needs may even go higher than that in some of these cases, but in those highlighted years, your out of pockets hit the high deductible. And again, I pointed out that that's hard to do. Again, you need to think about how much medical need you have, because what happens is you get a deductible for each use. Medicare would cover 80% and you're responsible for 20. And it's as you have medical needs, medically approved needs, Medicare pays 80 and you're required to pay the 20% and keep on adding that until you hit the deductible. Then I used these columns to do the totals for cost for Plan G with Part B added, the Medicare costs for the high deductible, assuming those out of pockets are added to your premiums. So again, I'm not hitting the high deductible every year, only those certain years when it comes over. And then for N, I used the same times 20 times 50 for the estimates that you put in. And in this study, I allowed for about 4 office visits and 1 ER visit. And then the cumulative totals for those columns in here. And as you can see in this chart here, that with limited use, most years, the high deductible plan will come out ahead. But just throw in a couple years and it's close to the Plan G. Plan N is down here. And again, with the cumulative premiums plus out-of-pockets, your high deductible would come close to where Plan N is. But what happens if there's a high deductible year? Every other year, you may hit that deductible. And that's a lot, isn't it? But it shows you the risk here. How do you know what your medical need is going to be? And if you were to have this kind of medical experience, then your chart looks like this for annual total expenses of premiums plus out-of-pockets. And your cumulative shows that it may come close to Plan G rather than, and definitely above Plan N. So if you have high use of medical needs, then your high deductible Plan G could start to rival Plan G and be well above Plan N. Here's another thing that I did with the inputs. I had, originally a ballpark of about 4% average for Medigap in 2021. That was before inflation hit. In more recent years, experiences have really divided between Plan G and Plan N. They're now 7.7, almost 8% for long-term average for G, and about 6.6 for the long-term average increase for Plan N. And again, my experience has been up and down from that. This year, I got blessed with only a 3.2% increase on my Plan N. And I just put a ballpark in for the middle here of 4.5% increase for the high deductible G. Now, each of these are also not just inflation and loss experience, but your age as well. All 3 of these are attained age policies. So I had Grok help me try to figure out what is the percentage increase of premiums that would allow for the attained age, probably about 2% for each of the plans, and the experience for these 3 plans. So I changed these 3 numbers here. And so to sum up, that's the third risk, your own medical risk, which you need to consider. With high use of healthcare, as in this chart, the cumulative totals for premiums and out-of-pockets could surpass what you were spending in Plan N and sometimes come close to Plan G. And so therefore, that green line for the high deductible is somewhere in between Plan G and Plan N, and really will depend on your medical needs. If you focus on just the cumulative premiums in this study up to age 80, high deductible Plan G comes out the winner. only 64,000 in cumulative premiums compared to 85,000 in premiums for Plan N and 105,000 premiums for Plan G. But if you include high use of healthcare, as in this chart, the cumulative totals, premiums plus out-of-pockets, could surpass what you would have spent in Plan N. And that is a reason why I go with Plan N, because the cost sharing for modest copays for office visits and emergency rooms won't lead to this kind of result. I will conclude with my standard warning. I am not a professional planner. I'm not a Medicare broker. I'm just a retiree. I have no initials after my name. So take these as entertaining ideas from one educated consumer to another. Always do your own due diligence and seek out a professional if you need one.